Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everyone.
Good afternoon.
I'm Katie Rivera, Board Treasurer. I'm sorry. Ooh, sorry, I have the wrong thing up. Just give me 1 second. Oh my goodness.
The joys of technology.
Exactly. All right, here we go. All right, let's start over. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Katie Rivera, Board Secretary of New Jersey Public Health Innovation Political Action Committee. And today I am joined by Board Director and co-founder, Rula Ballantyne. We couldn't be more excited to be coming live once again from our PAC Chat StreamYard studio to bring to you the 2022 Congressional Endorsement of Congressman Van Drew in District 2. If this is your first time tuning into the PAC Chat, welcome. And if you are a returning viewer, welcome back. Since we are discussing endorsements today, I just want to make one note for our viewers that the NJPHIPAC endorsement process was developed with a set of standards and integrity. Every endorsement we make requires at minimum that the candidate complete and submit the NJPHIPAC survey and participate in an in-depth interview with the board of directors. Other factors and considerations are prior voting records of the candidate, if there is any, their public positions or statements on matters that affect our mission, and more. Ultimately, the NJPHIPAC standards are to endorse candidates with transparency, integrity, and measurement without bias, so that when you see NJPHIPAC and our gold seal endorsement, the New Jersey voter can be confident that this is the best candidate for our collective mission. So without further ado, I now have the pleasure of introducing Congressman Van Drew. Hello, Congressman.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good, and thank you so much for joining us.
My pleasure, it really is. I appreciate the good work that you all are doing. That's the real way America should work, when people who are just, really committed to a cause, committed to an issue, stand up and fight for it and make a difference, and work with their elected officials and work with others to hopefully effectuate meaningful change in this country.
Yes, absolutely. And for those of us who are unfamiliar to the parameters of Congressional District 2, the district includes, I believe it's 8 counties, Atlantic, Burlington, Camden, Cape May, Cumberland, Gloucester, Ocean, and Salem?
So it's changed a little bit. Actually, my county has grown in size a little bit more. I have more of Ocean County now. I have almost half of it. We don't have Burlington, right, Ron, at all anymore, which was just mostly very rural areas. There weren't too many people over there. So the population had to increase in my district, and my district is the largest district in the state of New Jersey. I have about 40% of the state geographically. I no longer have that. I have one town in Camden. I don't have that. But so what I do have, let me tell you what I do have. I have Cape May County. I have all of Cape May County, all of Cumberland County, all of Salem County, half of Ocean County, half of Gloucester County, and all of Atlanta County, which is actually the most populated one of all. I have 93 towns and 6 counties.
Amazing. Yeah, that's a big piece of the pie, isn't it?
Yes, and it changed, as you know, every 10 years. They reorganize the districts and how they're going to be. It's called gerrymandering because sometimes it is. In my case, it really wasn't. It didn't change a lot. There was nothing bad they could really do to me, because you're either pushing me in the ocean or pushing me in the bay or pushing me in between the barrier islands and the mainland. So what happened basically with me is I just moved up more in Ocean County and got a bigger chunk of ocean.
Got it. So as we dive in, Congressman, to our interview, I just first want to, on behalf of the PAC board, we want to extend our congratulations on this endorsement. And we want to thank you for outwardly taking a stand up on all of these important issues that relate to our mission.
Well, I want to thank you for the way you did it. It was done with intellectual purity. In other words, you just really asked questions and wanted honest answers. And I like the what you set out in the beginning, how you determined to run this PAC in an honest and meaningful way, which means that you do look at what individuals have said in the past. You do look at what they're saying publicly. You know, it's one thing, it's easier to say to a group, oh yeah, I'm with you, I support you, but then go out into the public and say something completely different. I think if you want to be a good elected official, you have to have guts, you have to have some fire in your belly, and you have to be willing to stand up for something, whatever side of it that you're on. And I've always tried to do that. And this very issue, as you know, even when I was in the state Senate, stood up numerous times. And I remember at that time, she's no longer there. She retired, but Loretta Weinberg, who was very pro, or anti, maybe say what you believe in, and having many of a discussion and an argument with her. And we were able to hold a lot of things off that wanted to be done then. And I know you've had good leaders now that have done the same thing at the state level. And I'm glad to work with you at the federal level, because a lot of things have happened that aren't right. And I feel so bad for so many people that have had they've had medical procedure, which is, albeit it's not going into surgery, but still, which has been forced upon them when they don't want to have it. And that's wrong. That's just not right. It's not freedom. It's not what Americanism is. It's not what we believe. And it's disturbing to see, how many people. And we talked about some of the stories that you had and some of the stories that I have of people that literally at times would almost endanger them. And they were still being forced by this bureaucracy to do something that was contrary to their best health.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you so much for kind of expanding on that. And I think Rula is going to jump right in and start with our list of questions for you.
Hi, Rula.
Hi, how are you?
I'm good.
Good. I feel like we jumped right into it. But before we go any further, why don't you take this opportunity to tell our viewers a little bit about yourself professionally, your experience in Congress, and what drove you to be there?
Okay, so I am, because you always are. It's like being a Marine; you're always a dentist. I'm a dentist, and now I have sold my practice. Obviously, once I went to Congress, I started out as a mayor, and then became a county commissioner, and after that, a state assemblyman, and then I was in the state legislature, actually a state senator, 16 years. So I've been involved in government, and after the state senate, of course, I ran for Congress and won. I've always believed that it's important to try to stay in touch with your electorate, to be committed with them, to be connected with them is an important thing. And hopefully that's something that I've done as long as I've been there. I was driven to Congress because of very issues like this and many others where we've lost our way, I think, sometimes in the federal government, and we need to bring us back. I keep saying when I speak to people, we need to bring America back home in so many different ways, and this is one of them. I would have never imagined in America, I don't think any of us would have, years ago, where things were forced upon you, and if you didn't do what you were told to do, you would lose your job or your way of life or your status or your credentials. That's just wrong. That's not freedom. So I've always felt that whatever we do, we always should try to maximize that freedom. So I had a tremendous opportunity being a dentist. I love my patients, and I still see them sometimes, not professionally anymore. As I said, I sold my practice, but it's great to see them. And I love my district. The district itself, as I talked about a little bit, varies a lot. There's big differences between Ocean County and say Salem County. Salem County is very rural. Ocean County is not as rural and very seaside. If there's anything that I have quite a bit of, though, is I've got water all around me everywhere. So I've got bay, I've got ocean, and we have a lot of seasonal and recreational activities that go on in my district as well. It's a really pretty district. Cape May, it's just all of it. It's wonderful, and I love living here. When I am here, I'm in Washington so much, I try to get back once on a weekend.
So you touched upon this a little bit, right, earlier in our conversation, but things accelerated very quickly in New Jersey. We were faced with masking, lockdowns, vaccine mandates for employees, school personnel, healthcare workers. Many have been affected by all of this on so many levels. Can you share with us your thoughts on these requirements?
Well, they were onerous and draconian, and in plain English, bad. I mean, it was the wrong thing to do. I hate when people's freedoms are taken away. One thing that happened, I believe, during this process is that many elected officials used COVID as a way to gain more control and more power, and did it quite a bit just through the executive branch, through executive order. I found that disturbing. That again is not America. We don't do things that way. And I was really disturbed. Now, in the House, let me be frank, in the House of Representatives, and even to some degree in the Senate, you had no choice. You couldn't fight, because every time you bring it up, every time, and I have a lot of bills that would straighten this out. I'm either a co-sponsor or the sponsor of legislation that would stop this. Nancy Pelosi would never allow it, say in the House of Representatives. And we would even do things like discharge petitions. For those that are listening and don't know what they are, a discharge petition means that, okay, Nancy Pelosi, you may be the speaker, but we're going to get a majority of folks to sign on to a petition that will discharge the bill and put it on the floor so we can vote on it. For example, dealing with these COVID mandates and vaccine mandates and getting rid of them. We tried to do that. And again, I'm not being, I really am, I hope you know that, being political, but nobody, not one single person on the other side would sign the petition. So we were almost there. We were just about, I think it was about 5. It depended on who was in and out, but about 5 short, 3 short. And we could have had the discharge petition and at least vote and have that opened and clear debate about what we were doing to our people. So I knew people that were discharged from the military that were good Americans and good military people. I've known people that were in healthcare. Healthcare people were on the front line before we knew anything. All we knew was that it could be kind of dangerous. But suddenly, and everybody gave speeches about how great they are. I still think they are, but nobody listened to them or cared about them as far as mandating they get something they didn't want to get. And who would know better than the nurses that were right on the front lines dealing with this, doing everything they could to make it better for other people. It was so wrong. I told you all a story, and it's just one of many, many stories, but it struck me so much. All the stories struck me, but this man called me up, and he was being mandated to get the vaccine, and he had the previous 2. This was the booster he was getting mandated to get. And unfortunately, it can just happen. He's relatively a healthy guy, but he threw a blood clot from his leg. And it can happen to people sometimes, unfortunately. And it turned out to be kind of serious. And he was in the hospital for a while, finally got out, and he's okay. But his physician said, do not, whatever you do at this point, get any more vaccines of that nature, especially the COVID vaccine. And these were the physician's words. It actually could really harm you. It could even kill you. He went back to his employer and said, look, this is what, and they said, it doesn't matter. You have to get the vaccine. So you've either got to get the vaccine just for the sake of obedience and lack of freedom and get sick or maybe die or lose your job. What is that? I mean, I want people to really think about that. That's not America. That's not freedom. So this is all about freedom. It's as big as it is what you're all representing. It's even bigger because it's about freedom in general in America and what we stand for. And we don't want to lose that.
Couldn't agree more. I mean, we are in a very odd time where we are not trusting the doctor-patient relationship, and we are seeing that relationship being eroded when we have government officials or even, employers who tell you, I know better than you, I know better than your physician, and livelihoods are put on the line because of this ideology. And at the end of the day, this is really what we are championing for. This is not to tell you not to do it or vaccines are bad. This is a personal liberty issue and a decision that is best left between you, a physician, and up to the individual ultimately. So it is a strange time. I don't think there is any time in history where we've seen opinions of elected officials or, of an employer override or supersede that of someone's physician.
You're absolutely right. It's totalitarianism. It really is. It's the wrong thing. It's something that we've never represented in our country. And hopefully, as we work through a lot of things over the next few years, it will not be again. You have to allow people to have their freedoms. And I'm sure that, in fact, what also makes me chuckle in a way, but it's not funny, but it's kind of ironic. So, you have Dr. Fauci and these other folks who say, well, we know best. We really knew. And of course, if you followed this whole thing, they knew best, except when it all started, Dr. Fauci said you didn't need masks. And then afterward, he said you did need a mask. And then he said you needed 2 masks. And then he said if you got the vaccine, you wouldn't have to worry, you wouldn't need any masks, and that the Johnson & Johnson single dose was just as good as the Pfizer 2 dose. Then they said that wasn't true. Then we went to the point, wow, guess what? The vaccine doesn't always work and people are still getting COVID like crazy. Thank God it's a less virulent, type. But then it was, well, now we need a booster and maybe another booster, So when were you right is the question I would like to know. When was he right? When were they telling us the truth, or when were they accurate or whatever, rather than say this is something new and it's different. You have to work with your physician, and our physicians will, help as well. And we'll put out all the public information that we can. And then you make the decisions that are safest and best for you and those around you. That's not what we did. We just jammed everything down people's throats, including little children.
Absolutely. And we saw that really being done with the stroke of a pen. Really, in many cases, these type of mandates were put forth through executive order, whether on the state level or on the federal level. And we saw the legislator really taken out of the process completely, and the entire democratic process completely dismissed. And, elected officials who were put there to represent the people and our voices were completely muted on these issues. So any type of I guess the word I'm looking for is, if you go against the narrative as put forth by the president or our governor, it was censored and shut down and not even heard in most cases.
And that's a good point too. I don't mean to interrupt you, but just before you go on, you're right. It was multi-level. Then you look at the different platforms, and if you put something in there, hey, I don't agree that this is the way to do it. I don't think it's right. Even for businesses, I don't think we should completely close the business. There may be whatever it was. We have discussion and we have freedom. We lost our freedom on social media. They would take you off. If you were anti-vax, you were taken off. Who in God's name gives them that right? You're absolutely right.
We saw censoring of epic proportions over the last 2 years. So Congressman, tell me about your campaign and your district. What challenges do you face? What is your path to victory? Are these issues that we've discussed today on this call, do you hear them often and with the constituents that you speak to?
Sure. And it affects some people more than others, just like all issues. So some people have been very directly affected. So, when I spoke to, and I told you that story as well, to a gentleman who I knew and was well, but for some reason which they never ever talk about. And I'm not just totally blanket anti anybody getting a vaccine. That's up to you, and it's up to your family and so forth. But he did get the booster. And I hadn't known, I hadn't seen him since. So I just saw him at an event and I was speaking with him, and he spoke like he had had a stroke. And I said, gee, what happened? Are you doing okay? I mean, he wasn't horrible, but it wasn't good. You definitely could pick up like that. Something had happened. Got the booster, and that happened to him. True story. So, and I don't have the right to say who is in my office staff, got her COVID vaccine. And a day or two later, I forget, it was either a day or two, on her neck area around here, she had a lymph node that swelled up. That just didn't happen by accident. So her doctor's monitoring it and keeping an eye on it, and she's fine. But that's weird, and you want to know why some of this stuff's happening. So I don't blame anyone, including the people that are pro-vaccine. They're trying to prevent people from losing their life and bad things happening. But it doesn't mean it was always the right way to go about it by any means. And it doesn't mean that you take away people's rights. That is mixed in and is part of. So for the people that have gone through something like that, the vaccine is their number one issue. Or for people that feel strongly, the vaccine is their number one issue. But for other people, it's part of a whole package of issues of losing freedom. It's part of why are our cities, more of a problem as far as being dangerous and the crime being high than ever before. Why do we have what happened in Afghanistan? Why are, you all have to be checked out, by the way. This is always interesting to me. But the illegals that are crossing the border at record rates with not only COVID, but with other stuff and drugs involved and literally harming children and women and just everything you could possibly imagine, they didn't have to be checked. I thought that was unbelievable. So does that mean that maybe this was more of a political decision, all of this? Maybe it meant we're controlling the individuals and members of American society. But if we think something's really woke and really cool, we're just going to let them roll in with whatever they've got. Unbelievable. Unbelievable. So American citizens had less rights than people who were illegals. And that's true. That's part of the package that people are worried about and thinking about. So many different things, the inflation. So it all goes together because I believe that we have an administration and a majority that denies what is so evidently clear before your eyes and denies people their freedoms. I so wish, for example, in New Jersey, because it was, and I wish federally too, we tried. I wish that legislature in New Jersey, in the end, they were forced to kind of do the right thing. But I wish that, those legislators that were the same party as the governor said, hey, wait a minute, we're the New Jersey legislature, because they do have rights, especially in the Senate, to say, you can't do that. No executive order. If we just want executive orders, let's move to China or the former Soviet Union.
Sure. Absolutely.
So you hear it all. People are not happy.
Yep, we hear it as well. And, we appreciate how vocal you have been throughout your term as congressman and kind of addressing these issues and not staying under the radar or being quiet about it.
No, I haven't been.
Hence our endorsement. So, Congressman, as you know, many of us in our community, in the health freedom community, have come to this issue prior to COVID. Although many parents and individuals kind of awoken during COVID, we were kind of here before that, right? So solidify to our audience in the arena of health freedom, what was kind of your aha moment in regarding these issues and your need to be so vocal?
Pretty early on, and it did grow as we went along because it was not right then, but it progressively became much worse with, affecting when governors are saying we're mandating it and this is what we're doing and there are going to be no exceptions, because guess what, they really didn't give out medical exemptions or religious exemptions, which you already know. It wasn't as bad when I was a New Jersey state senator. So it started then, and if you look back to the things I said and talked about and supported then, I've always supported you guys, whether you were a smaller group, whether it was COVID or whatever it was, to make decisions for your children and for yourself. It's off the subject a little bit, but I have a bill that I'm also working on and put in, because guess what? Some of the things that we're putting in kids' textbooks in second grade, come on. That's not right. I mean, there's something really wrong in that, and I won't go into it, but and it relates to this too. This title would be good for a lot of things. My child, my choice. It's your child. It's your choice. As you get older, then it's just your choice, as far as this goes. But that's really, where I'm at and where I was then, and it just progressively. And then with this president and this Congress and this governor, it just became evidently so clear. If you're the most pro-vaccine person in the world, I still don't know how you could think that what went on with these executive orders and people losing their way of life. It's a weird thing to be on the phone with somebody and they're saying, I'm going to lose my job. I'm not going to do this, but I'm going to lose my job. Or I'm going to do this. I really don't want to, but I have no choice because I need this income and I have to literally do something I don't want to. That is not the definition of freedom.
That is what we call coercion. Some people might like to label that as choice. Well, you have a choice. You can, it's not a choice when your livelihood is on the line and the ability to provide for your family. That no longer is a choice. That becomes coercion. And there is a very distinct difference between choice and coercion. So everything that you just outlined is really at the core of this issue. Right? We can pretend that there was choice all along, and we've heard that, well, you have a choice. You can either work at, as a nurse, or you can't. You can stay in your job or you can't, right? The minute you threaten someone's livelihood, that eliminates the idea that, that pretty word choice, that's gone. That's down the toilet. We're now dealing with coercion.
Exactly. It's almost like saying, hey, you have a choice. You're either going to do this thing I want you to do, or I'm going to kill you. But you have a choice.
You have a choice.
I mean, come on.
Right.
Yeah, that's not a choice.
So I know we are running low on time, Congressman. It's been such a wonderful conversation, all the clarity that you've provided to us and our viewers on your stance. We appreciate that. I am going to pass it off to Katie now, and she is going to ask you some final questions.
Thank you.
Yeah, absolutely. It's really just going to be one final question, then we'll look to wrap up because I know your time is tight. So we talked a lot about freedom and how it's sort of under fire here. And I wondered if you could, just kind of looking forward, give us a sense of how, if there's anything you're going to be championing going forward in Congress.
Well, yes. And there's some bills now that we're on that I think, let me be candid. I think the Congress is going to change in its scope and dimension, and fabric of Congress is going to change. And I think we're going to see a lot more people that are committed to freedom. And I think we're going to try to hold this president in check a whole lot more. And then we have good bills. We have good pieces of legislation that I really believe we're going to try to move forward, whether it's Brian Mast and I have a bill together that we're both sponsoring about the military, and that the military would not be allowed to force somebody to do this or get discharged. I have a bill of my own, which is the broadest of all, which may be a little harder to get through, but I wanted to put it out there and I'm going to try, which says nobody has the right to do it. No business has the right to do it. Government hasn't the right to do it. The military doesn't have the right to do it. You just can't do it, and that bill, it's called the Vaccination Mandate Act, and it would just, stop that. And then there's many other bills that we have in different forms and different variations. We probably will end up doing one or two or however many that are a mixture of that. But I'm very hopeful that we go forward in that direction. I believe that we will.
And before I forget, Congressman, this is one question that we like to ask all of our people that come onto the PAC chat is and it doesn't have to be long, a few short words, what does health freedom mean to you?
Health freedom means to me that an individual human being, an individual soul, has the right to make a decision about what they want to do with their life, with the cooperation and help of their doctor. Health freedom means to me Just like I said before, my child, my choice, well, it goes to health too. Last thing, it also means to me, one of the things that saddened me most for people who did get sick with COVID, and we have legislation on this, and I sure hope it goes through. They literally in hospitals didn't have any protocol for this. So if you and I were brother and sister, and we were the only family we had, and I got COVID and I was in the hospital, I'd be in that separate room with a glass pane in between. And even if I was going to pass, no matter how many masks you put on, no matter how careful you were, no matter how much you felt it was important to be with your flesh and blood at that time as they were leaving this earth, you were not allowed to. I've spoken to individuals who literally, through a pane of glass, watched their mother, father, child, brother, sister pass away. That's not freedom either. If you decide you want to be with them, and carefully as you can be, obviously, you should have that right. That would be my thought on it.
Excellent answer. I think you really nailed it down. I appreciate it.
You're
Katie?
welcome.
Yeah, I think that's, that pretty much summarizes, where we're at. I feel the same. I think that people are, really died alone during COVID, and it's very sad. And to not be able to have that human touch and human interaction and that right to be with your loved one and hold their hand is horrifying. So I appreciate your words on that, Congressman. All right. So is there anything else we'd like to just offer you? Any final words that you'd like to make to our viewers before we let you go?
Proud of your endorsement, proud to be associated with you, and I look forward to working with you.
Thank you, Congressman Van Drew. And on behalf of myself and the board of directors at NJPHIPAC, we want to thank you for your voice thus far, for your representation in Washington. And again, we want to congratulate you on your NJPHIPAC endorsement. We're wishing you the best of luck in your race. And we hope to have you on once more again as we get closer to the general, if you're willing to come back on.
I appreciate it. Good luck to you all.
Great. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
We appreciate you.
Take care. I appreciate you back. Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay. All right, viewers, there you have it. That is our up close and personal endorsement in Congressional District 2 with Congressman Van Drew. We hope it's clear by now why NJPHIPAC has decided to endorse Congressman Van Drew in this upcoming primary election on June 7th. If you reside in District 2, or if you have friends and family that do, please spread the word of how important it is to support this election. It is not only advantageous, but imperative to have strong representation for New Jersey and our country. Our future, our children's futures depend on it. We mentioned earlier that the success of the PAC relies on contributions from individuals like you. Being a grassroots organization, we are by the people and for the people. Unlike pharmaceutical giants who have millions at their disposal, the PAC's efforts is a show of people, not just dollars. What we have is a movement of thousands whose passion to preserve our rights cannot be bought or contained. In the eyes of legislators, contributions to the PAC, it equals voters. And that is a currency that money can't buy. Every donor contribution to the PAC shows the legislators that we are a voting bloc and our concerns should be taken seriously. So to become a PAC contributor, please visit our website at www.njphipac.org and make a contribution today. No amount is too small. And thank you again for joining us this afternoon, and we'll see you again next time on the PAC Chat.